Hey everybody, I'll try to make this quick, but I have some updates for you on the COVID case tracker that have happened since our phone call yesterday. And I just wanted to make sure to go over that with everybody. The reason we made these changes in between our call and now is because Mark has been dealing with King County Health on the case in Alki, and we've learned some things which have caused us to sort of modify or update our process and also the tracker. So let me just go over those changes with you now. Everything from our meeting still holds, but there are some added things. Basically, one of the things that we learned is we really need to be doing a good job of recording everybody who is impacted by one of these tests or one of these cases. So anybody who chooses to go get tested either voluntarily or voluntarily needs to be accounted for. And so I added this line here based on the time card records and the interview with the positive employee. We need to determine who's been in close contact. Actually, that's just a step in this process that was gone. Down below, in this positive case, we need to record all these employees who have been in close contact in a separate record on the tracker. And then if there perhaps is somebody that works in a different store, we want to reach out to them as well, to the other stores and the moms. Same thing down below here, same sort of directive. Review both the interview and the time cards, and try to come up with who's been in close contact, and then let the mom or GM from another store know if that's the case. And then down below here, in this case, it's a symptomatic employee, so it's just saying if that person ends up being positive, then we're going to need to do this with the people who've been in close contact, which is to quarantine them for 14 days, record each of their names in that tracker, and to reach out to the moms and GMs. So exactly the same thing down here in this case where somebody's asymptomatic but has been in known close contact with somebody that's COVID. Okay, great. So that's that there. One thing we learned from dealing with the health control board, we have an employee here who in Alki who is particularly sick even after 10 days. And so there actually is a stipulation that says if somebody's really sick, if they're a severe case, then they may have to isolate for 20 days. So we're forced to do that with our employee here who has COVID. They're an extreme case. They've been hospitalized on day 10. They still had a fever. And so right in the CDC guidelines, it says 20 days for an employee like that, or for a patient like that, I should say. 10 days refers to just mild or moderate cases. So you live and learn. So anyways, I just added that here as a note. A couple other things too. So using the COVID case tracker to record all these details. I already mentioned this, but again, we want to record anybody who's been in close contact. Obviously, when those cases are positive, we need to do that. But also anybody who has volunteered to get a test, we just want to record. So it turns out that that's really useful information for the health control board, and for us, right, to look like we're being responsible with this whole thing. So we want to say to them, not only did we have everybody who was in close contact go and get tested, and we have records of that, we also have records of people who, out of an abundance of caution or because of their own sort of feelings about the disease, have gone and gotten tested themselves. I should say virus, not disease. One other thing that we learned as well is if there have been 2 positive cases in a 14-day period of time in the same restaurant, we are obligated to call the health department and get them involved. We did not do that in Alki, and we learned that we should have. So 2 cases, even if they're unrelated, is the hurdle or the standard for the health control board to want to be involved. And we have to do that as a business operating in Washington State. So I added that note there. Clearly, at that point, the mom and OPH is going to be involved, but just for the sake of everybody knowing that that's there, I put it in. Okay, I want to talk about the tracker and some of the things that we need to record in the tracker. So I'm going to go to that real quick here. I made some changes, and I'll just kind of go through those changes one by one. Employee date of birth is important for the health control board, so we just need to record that piece of information for whoever's involved here, whether it be a close contact volunteer or the original sort of case. I added to case type here, just under the drop down box, several different definitions. These jive with what's in the process. So for primary, you have COVID positive, somebody who's just got some symptoms and they're sick, and somebody who's been in close contact with a known COVID person. So those would be primary people. Then we have some secondaries. So secondaries are people that have been in close contact with the primary, or people who may have been in close contact, right? So sometimes we're like, you know what, we're not sure, but we're going to go get you tested. And so I wanted to make the distinction between those two types of people here. And then we have voluntary tester, right? Which would be somebody that becomes aware of this and is like, you know what, I'm going to go get tested. So again, we want to record all of these groups of people in this tracker one by one. Okay, case details here. So I updated the language on this. So this is basically where we want to record all the information about the case that we're going to gather from the interview with the employee, plus what we already know. So it could be the information from the first call, plus the interview, and it can include everything from symptoms to, obviously as these cases get more complicated, like if you've been in close contact with somebody who has COVID, you're going to want to know when did that person get it, and what was the date of their test, and are they symptomatic? And so all that information goes into this here. So just clarifying that above. Let's see. Date, this was changed. So this is now the date of the positive test, or the symptoms onset, or the confirmed close contact with the positive person. So those are the three different types of primary cases that we have, and we want to know basically what that date was. This date becomes ground zero, right? We work back from this date by 2 days to determine when that person was maybe contagious. And so this is a really important date to record. I simplified, we had some other dates in here, I just simplified it. Obviously, date we became aware is important as well to show that we're being responsible for things. And then in the very next column, you can see the date or shifts worked in the 2 days prior to this date, right? Because that is an important thing to know. What were the shifts where this person was potentially contagious? And that will help us determine who has been in close contact. Okay, so I'm going to move over a little bit here. I put this column next to these other ones, other staff who are in close contact, as we just discussed. Anybody who's been in close contact, we're going to create a separate record for. I would probably, again, do that when we discover that that person is positive, but you can do it preemptively if you want to get a head start on things. Let's see. Case outcome, I added some drop-down boxes here. So, depending on what happens, if the person doesn't have COVID, we might return them to work. So we're either going to quarantine this person, isolate them, or return them to work. And so that's here. One thing I would say too on the voluntary is that if a voluntary person wants to miss work to go get a COVID test, we need to oblige them. And we need to pay them for it. And so that person would need to be entered in here. So even though it's not like required that we're sending them away to go get a test, we don't want to deny them leave if they feel like they need to get a test. We want to do the right thing with them. Okay, last thing to know, and then this whole call is over, is that we want to record the date of the deep cleaning of the restaurant. So in the case that we have a positive case, we need to deep clean the restaurant. And we're not going to create a process for how to deep clean the restaurant. Basically, it's just going to be heavy sanitization of everything. We have the Buster sanitizing cleaning checklist. We have good pops. As a GM in the store, you're basically just going to make sure that everything gets sanitized and cleaned really well. We want to record the date of that again for facing the health control board. We want to be able to say, yeah, of course we deep cleaned. It was on this date that happened. And so that is now going to be in the tracker. So every positive case should have a date of a deep clean. And just do your best to deep clean the restaurants. Obviously, take whatever's in our systems and tools and do that and then some, and we'll be in good shape. And I'm saying it like that because we know that the spread of COVID is mainly airborne, but cleaning surfaces is obviously important as well. So I'm not super concerned about creating like 45-step process to deep clean the restaurant. Let's just deep clean it really good. We know we clean better than most restaurants out there, and we know this thing is airborne. So that should be good enough. Okay, great. Thank you. That's the whole thing. Sorry to add on to what's already been said, but we're living and learning. All right. Have a great day.